Well, from Biden, we are shifting our focus and intention to Trump. Now, if former President Donald Trump wins in November, there are questions about what his second term would bring. CNN's Phil Mattingly explains how a second Trump term could bring drastic changes to the courts. Let's take a look.
The cornerstone achievement of Donald Trump's first-term legacy.
I totally transformed the federal judiciary.
That claim, supporters and opponents alike acknowledge, is not hyperbole. After 234 Trump-selected judicial nominees took seats on the most critical benches across the country, 54 of those reshaped the ideological makeup of the critical federal appeals courts.
I do solemnly swear.
And of course, the three who drove a generational shift in the highest court in the land.
Many presidents never get the opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice. I had 3. They are going.
But as Trump drives toward a potential second term, one thing is clear. He's just getting started. The two most conservative Supreme Court stalwarts, Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, could step aside due to age, clearing the way for Trump and his party to name 2 more lifetime appointees to the Supreme Court. And for Trump, who relied heavily, almost entirely, on long-standing Republican legal philosophy in his first term, he's now made clear he would push sharply right in a second.
I will once again appoint rock-solid conservative judges to do what they have to do in the mold of Justices Antonin Scalia, Samuel Alito, a great gentleman, and another great gentleman, Clarence Thomas.
Trump more than delivered on his 2016 campaign promises to name conservatives to the courts. His single-term appointments rivaled those of presidents who held office for twice as long as he did. But legal scholars note it's not just the number of Trump appointees, it's who he appointed that has had such a dramatic impact on the judiciary that will resonate for decades.
We like people in their 30s, so they're there for 50 years or 40 years.
Trump's 3 Supreme Court nominees, all younger than 55 years old when he named them to the bench, meaning his judges could have decades to shape rulings and policy across the country. And the key common denominator amongst all of his picks, rock-ribbed conservative credentials.
Will you commit to voters tonight that religious liberty will be an absolute litmus test for anyone you appoint, not just to the Supreme Court, but to all courts?
Yes, I would.
That 2016 promise of conservative judicial appointments, especially following the death of Justice Antonin Scalia, helped solidify support for his candidacy from skeptical Republicans.
I, Donald John Trump.
Once in the White House, Trump then relied heavily on the Council of Advisors and outside groups to fill open seats with the help of then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
You know what my top priority is. I've made it very clear. It's the judiciary.
Working with the Republican-controlled Senate, Trump solidified that 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. And the result, it's been dramatic, even with Trump no longer in the Oval Office. Roe v. Wade overturned. The EPA and other federal agencies stripped of some regulatory power. And in a case deeply personal to Trump himself, a decision that granted the president near total immunity while in office. Trump also successfully flipped 3 of the nation's 13 appeals courts to conservative majorities. One of the district court judges he appointed, Eileen Cannon, she's now responsible for overseeing his own criminal trial in Florida. But Trump allies and detractors alike point to a less understood but very clear shift in the makeup of Trump's own appointments over the course of that first term. A shift away from the powerful conservative legal establishment and toward lawyers who embraced a more expansive and at times legally tenuous view of executive power. Now clear about their intent to seek retribution for Trump's own legal travails, forming the basis that allies plan to set as the bar for nominations and administration lawyers alike.
When this election is over, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them.